Welcome to the Radical Root podcast, hosted by the 501c3 nonprofit Growing Gardens, your go-to resource for all things radical gardening and food system advocacy. All right, welcome to the Radical Root. My name is Bea. I'm the development manager here at Growing Gardens, and I'll be your host for today's episode. This month on the Radical Root, our topic is creative approaches to radical gardening. And the idea is that you don't even have to garden to make a real impact. If you have a passion for gardening or food system equity, there are so many ways that you can get out into your community and make a difference. Today, I'm joined by Rima, the director of our Let Us Grow program, but we're really going to talk about a fun side project that we work on within Growing Gardens, and that is our community gardening initiative. So I'm just going to hop right in. Rima, can you tell us a bit about yourself, your name, your pronouns, and your role at Growing Gardens?
Hi, my pronouns are she, her, and I am the director of the Let Us Grow program at Growing Gardens. We work primarily with inmates who are incarcerated within the state system in Oregon, state and federal prison system in Oregon.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Rima. Can you tell us a little backstory? We always like to hear the diverse history that brought folks to Growing Gardens because we all come from such different backgrounds. So can you just share a little bit about the story that led you to us here at Growing Gardens?
Through a long series of impossibilities that I had a long series of circumstances over which I had no control. I think Kurt Vonnegut said that one. I started out in the foster care system. I was returned to my tribe. I'm mixed race, Native American and white. I was returned to my tribe when I was 7. And I got into a lot of trouble as a kid, ended up in both the juvenile and the adult carceral system, did some time, got out, decided to do something entirely different, ended up going from a little town in Arizona to New York City to go to school. Thank God for Pell Grants. I have 2 computer science degrees. I spent 30 years in high tech, working first as a coder and then working as a new product development manager. Got to retire early and went back to my first love, which was gardening and working with people who are incarcerated.
So great to hear just so many different paths that led people to Growing Gardens. It's amazing that you have that lived experience that you can apply to your work here. And for those of us listening, I've had the opportunity to interview folks from the Let Us Grow program before. I've not had the opportunity to interview Rima, the actual director of the program. So in your own words, Rima, can you just share a little bit about what Let Us Grow is, maybe the history of Let Us Grow, and how Let Us Grow merged with Growing Gardens?
Okay. Let Us Grow started out at Coffee Creek Correctional. There was a sustainability class between some of the PSU offered that involved inmates and volunteers. After the class, they were looking around for a project that they could do that was sustainable and that would help the environment, and they landed upon gardening. So the 3 volunteers who were involved, one of whom was still involved, started this gardening program at Coffee Creek. One of the people left and started Let Us Grow and started working on the male side, which is where I came in. Let Us Grow was founded by Sarah Van Roo, who's now retired, and it started in 2010. We merged with Growing Gardens in 2015. And my standard explanation for that is that we do exactly what Growing Gardens does. We educate, we garden, only all of our participants are behind bars. So if you go to a state facility in Oregon, you will find our classes, you'll find our volunteers in the garden, and we also work at the federal site in Sheridan.
Thank you so much. And there are other podcast episodes within the Radical Root, more specific to Let Us Grow, and that kind of dig into the work of Let Us Grow. This episode, we're going to focus on a totally different side project. And for all of you listening that want to learn more, go to growing-gardens.org. Check out our Let Us Grow program. You can find those past podcasts and, of course, future podcasts that will be coming out specific to the Let Us Grow program. But right now, I want to chat a little bit about our community garden consultation initiative. Can you just tell us a little bit about what our community garden consultation initiative is, kind of how it got started? Like, what do we offer? What does it look like?
Okay. It got started because people ask a lot of questions. They ask me questions, they ask anybody. We would table at events and people would come up and want to discuss their gardening questions. People would say, "Oh, you do gardening. Why does my lettuce look so crappy?" And we decided that maybe this is something that we could reach out to and address these kind of questions and maybe raise a few donations in the process. So basically, it was real simple. We put a little bit of backbone, an appointment function on the website, and a little bit of a database back there, and a little note that said, "We do garden consulting," and hung out a shingle and went to work. So basically, if you click on the link on our website, you will get a little appointment thing and we'll come back to you and we'll set up an appointment and we'll spend 30 to 45 minutes with you on the phone trying to solve your garden problems. After that, we give you a little write-up of the problems and we ask you for a donation. So it was a very easy, I think it's called low-hanging fruit sort of thing, that this is a demand that we see because I always get peppered with questions. I go into a facility and sooner or later, a CO, a guard will come up and go, "I got these little white bugs. What is that?" So we saw a need and we decided that we could fill it, and it was fairly easy to fill. The web is a
Thank you.
wonderful place.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of this month's podcast topic is that it really is that simple. If there's a problem that you identify, and it could be as simple as my neighbors don't know a ton about gardening, they're
Mhm,
asking me a lot of questions.
mhm.
This is a way that you could step out and really engage with your community and make a difference and help people out. Very, very simple to do. Like Rima said, all we did was create a way to track our meetings and schedule folks and put up a page on our website with a little link, could be as simple as a flyer you put up in your neighborhood grocery store that says I'm available, here's my number. But so easy to get engaged and to help community members out in this way. It doesn't have to be a big production. It could be super, super simple. And the cool thing about it is that so much has come of this that we weren't expecting, and the relationships we've developed because of this are super exciting and also like way out of left field. So Rima, I'd love to ask you, what are some like really surprising things we learned or some of your favorite stories that came up since we started this, like seemingly really simple, tiny little project?
I have talked to people all over the world. I don't think everybody really looks at the website. They go and they Google garden consulting and off they go. Talked to a gentleman in Singapore who was wondering why his pine tree that he had potted was not doing well. Singapore's daily temperature is 88 and there's a 90-degree humidity factor. A pine tree does not do well in those cases. I also talked to a lady in Goa, India about her loofahs. And that was fun because I really didn't know a lot about loofahs and it took me a little bit to get back to her with the information she was looking for. One thing, if you do this, you have to like to engage with people. And there's a lot of off the wall stuff that people ask, from very basic questions to things that require research. So I think one of the things that's really important is that you know what you're talking about. I used to be an Oregon Master Gardener, and I used to work the phones. It's called 1-800 Ask a Master Gardener. And I would train people to answer the phone where if you had a problem, you still can. If you have a problem, you can call the Master Gardener hotline and the Master Gardener will answer it. And I would say one of the most important things is a very good answer is, "I do not know the answer to that. I will research it and get back to you." Because you are essentially entering into a relationship with the person who you are consulting for, and it really behooves you to know about what you speak.
Yeah, I'd say that's good advice in general. So
Hmm.
often people feel they need to be, I mean, yes, have the information,
Yeah.
but if you don't know the answer, you can say that. You can say, I don't know, let me research that and get back to you.
As long as you get back to them.
Yep.
But it's just that you have entered into a relationship. I know we think maybe it's a very casual one, but it is a community building relationship because you are trying to help somebody out somewhere in the world. And pretty much a lot of times it could be your neighbor down the street. That's actually happened. I did talk to my neighbor who was a block away once, which was kind of funny. And it's like, and where are you, trying to locate the conditions in her garden? She gave me her address. I said, I live a block from you. Uh, oh, I've seen your house. I like the front of your house. That looks nice. You know, so it is entering into relationships with people. And the one caveat I will put on it is you really have to like engaging with people. If you're not comfortable engaging with people you don't know, this is probably something you don't want to do. But if you're, if you're open and you're willing to talk to people and engage with them, it's a lot of fun. I mean, the loofah thing was amazing. I had no idea about loofahs. Loofahs have two sets of distinct flowers. They have male and female flowers, and the male flowers come out a month before the female flowers come out. The female flowers don't come out until the days start to shorten. And this lady was going, I have a lot of flowers, but I don't have any plants. I don't have any loofahs, which are actually related to a squash. And when you peel them, they look like loofahs. But it's like because they're not ready yet. The girls are not ready. I didn't know that. I knew none of that until she asked the question. And I took 10 minutes beforehand to find out about loofahs. So we were exploring the topic together.
I love that since starting this, you've talked to folks all the way from India to a block away.
Yeah. If you like to engage, it's a great thing to do. And people come send me pictures, or they call me back and ask me another question. But I had one lady who sent me pictures of her greens when they came up because somehow she was convinced she had killed her whole garden. It's like, it's been cold. Wait a minute. And then she sent me a picture and goes, you're right, they're coming up. We just harvested our first greens. We're so excited.
That's awesome. Those relationships that you can develop. I think it was you who was sharing a story too about just, the way that gardening can knit us together with our community. Maybe there's neighbors that you've never talked to before, and this is such a simple, it's a way to tie us all together and really connect us, no matter how far or no matter where you're at in the world. So I love that
if people don't know, we're in Portland, Oregon, and sometimes gardening gets to be a competitive sport around here. So you spend a lot of time calming people down when they're saying, oh, my neighbor has a really great garden and my garden is 10 feet away and it doesn't look as nice as hers. And it's, my first suggestion is always, well, why don't you go over and knock on their door and say, your garden is doing so well. Have you got any hints for me? We don't talk to each other. I mean, she'd never met her neighbor. So, okay, why don't you go ask them? And it's like, go meet them, go talk to them, ask them what they're doing, find out what they're doing differently. Maybe they're using a different methodology. Maybe they're using different amendments than you are, but why don't you go ask them? And it's like, I've never met a gardener who isn't happy to talk to you about their garden. It starts conversations for people. I grow tomatoes on my parking strip because my garden faces east, so I don't have enough sun to grow potatoes. So tomatoes in the back garden. So I grow them on the parking strip, which happens to be very big. Thank you, the city of Portland. And people always come by and ask about the tomatoes. And I plant enough of them. If some of them go with people, I'm fine with that too. But gardening is such a way to pull community together. It's such a way to meet your neighbor. I once really got an awful lot of tomatoes one year. And literally I was knocking on people's doors going, would you like some tomatoes? Because I have 300 of them and I am not up to canning all of this stuff. So, and then we have conversations and you meet each other. And gardening is such a good medium because it's such a universal topic for people. Everybody, interestingly enough, in the prison system, the toughest guys will tell me about how their grandmas used to garden or their mother's garden and how they remember it. Really tough people. It's like, yeah, my granny used to grow tomatoes and squash and corn. And I really didn't realize how cool that was when I was a kid. And I'm doing it now and I really feel close. This is all in our background. At one time, all of us have gardened because that was the natural condition of the world until we clumped ourselves into big cities. And pulling back into it again now is something we should all be doing because indirectly, even your little tiny garden really does help the environment for any number of reasons.
Yeah, this concept of gardening is a universal, we talk about equity, but gardening is this universal equalizer that we all share in common, somewhere deep in our roots. So having, talked to hundreds of gardeners from literally all over the world, based on, that experience, what's some really sage advice that you would love to give to aspiring gardeners out there?
My next little venture will be a t-shirt that says, "Don't panic, it's a garden. Have fun." Because you should have fun. This is an activity where you connect, right? You connect with the earth, you connect with yourself, you connect with the seeds. This should not be an anxiety producing situation. So the first thing I would say is don't panic. If a plant doesn't make it, plant another one. If the lettuce doesn't make it, plant some more. You can get help. There's people like us all over the place. There's nurseries, but it should be fun. If it just is another task, you're not doing it right. The other thing is, it is not a competitive sport. Whatever your neighbor is doing, what you're doing is just fine. And the final thing is throw out some flowers because you can't have too many flowers.
Nice. I love that gardening is not a competitive
It's in
sport.
Portland sometime.
It feels that way. It really does.
It does. It does. Like, why is that garden so much nicer? I mean, this literally, I got a phone call that my neighbor's garden is 10 feet away and it's much nicer than mine. And it's how much time are they spending on it? Did they started from starts? Go ask them.
Yeah. How
Go
long have
ask
they
them
been
with
working on their soil?
Yes, all these things factor into a good garden. And if somebody in your area has got a really good garden, that's ultra local advice because they're right next to you in the same sort of soil.
Thank you so much. And also, I guess from the other perspective, like you having been involved with this community garden consulting initiative for a while, kind of know the ropes and, from start to finish, what those relationships look like. So if anyone's tuning in right now that's thinking like, hey, I could do this in my neighborhood, what's some advice you could give to our listeners who might want to do something similar?
Decide if you want to do it. Have good, reliable sources of information because so many people go out on the web and they look up Bob's pretty good garden blog. Bob may not know what he's talking about. The University of Oregon tends to know what they're talking about. Always look for reputable sources and understand if you do this, you're taking on a responsibility because you are providing people with advice. So, it's not like, hey, this is easy. I've been gardening forever. I can do this. It's, do I like to engage this way? Do I understand my sources? And do I like engaging with people? Because sometimes it's a great big adventure to try to get to the bottom of a problem. And sometimes I have to refer people on or tell them, oh, I think you need your soil tested. Here's how you go to a lab and here's what you order, to get that done. So I love it. I mean, it's just great fun, but then I love talking to people. So it's great fun. And if you're comfortable getting on the phone and talking to people or dealing across the web, it's just making connections.
And anyone here too, if you're tuning in and you're thinking like, I have the background, I have the experience, I have access to reputable sources, you can reach out to us here at Growing Gardens, send an email to us, hop on our website, go to the Contact Us tab, and let us know that you're interested, that you'd like any advice. And we're always here to support you all. We want you to get out and start doing this work in your own neighborhoods. So Rima, two more questions before we hop off here. I always like to wrap these up with share your most useful gardening fact or just something like a unique factoid about plants in general.
Oh, okay. Well, a couple of things. I am fascinated with aphids. And if you live here, you will see aphids usually on your plants. They are the most tenacious things in the world. They have a 14-day life cycle, and they can start reproducing on the second day. You can never totally eradicate them. So this is a very zen thing to deal with. You can clean them off, but you will not this is nothing you will ever be totally victorious. I will never eliminate unless I use a chemical, which I highly do not recommend. There will all be some level of aphid and some level of other things. I teach my gardeners inside when they talk about the slugs and the bugs and all the things that can go wrong. We have voles. We have a gopher. And it's like, and the gopher eats like the greens. They laid the greens down, and the gopher eats the greens. And I say, I come from a tradition that says everything has to make a living. So we accept 15% damage to stay organic, and we plant for the gopher. Everybody, yeah, that's the gopher. It is what it is. I mean, a garden is always a opportunity to re-engage and to understand the natural environment and what you can do and be safe and have a good garden. But everything's got to make a living, and we have to live with everything and everyone on the planet. So we need to figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah, it's really that beautiful lesson in harmony and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
letting stuff go and,
Mm-hmm.
like being connected with the earth. That's
Mm-hmm.
so powerful. That
It's
is the
really,
lesson of gardening, you know?
it's really hard on OCD people that you cannot totally eradicate the aphids. And it's like, no, but if you wash them or you brush them off the plant, they're dead when they hit the ground. Is that every single one of them? But everything has to make a living. Don't feed the voles. But I would recommend to people, because everybody goes, how does this fit into how does gardening fit into the broader environmental movement? It's an important piece of this. If you look at transport, the strawberries you buy in the middle of the winter have traveled 3,000 miles on a plane. Food that we buy all year round comes from all over the place. Things get trucked in from Mexico that grow here. Doesn't make a lot of sense. And people feel like, well, I can't do much about this whole thing because it's so big. This is a little thing you can do by raising some of your own food. You can't feed yourself full time, but any portion of food that you can grow is food that is not coming in from all over the program. If you can't afford a farmer's market because it is pricey to buy local produce or a CSA, you can grow a lot of this stuff. I always tell my students, remember when you get out that tomatoes grow in a 20-gallon bucket. You can go to Ace Hardware, buy yourself, they'll give you a bucket if you buy something, a big plastic bucket, poke 3 holes in it, throw some dirt in it and plant some tomatoes and you'll have tomatoes. You don't have to have a fancy garden. You don't have to have a lot of stuff. There's a movie out on the web called Dirt, which does what we show to all our participants, which does a really good job of placing why gardening is important within the environmental movement. So, favorite thing is that movie. I've seen it several thousand times because we show it to everybody. It's free on the web, or you can buy it. I highly recommend it because it does explain what the place is of gardening is in saving the planet.
Yeah, just get out there and start doing it, and there's resources like this. If you're nervous or, if you're caught up because your neighbor's garden is so beautiful, there are people you can call. There are resources out there that you can tap into. But the most important thing is just start, just do it.
Like
Thanks
I
for
said, the
that
t-shirt
reminder.
says, don't panic.
Right.
It's going to be great.
Keep it
And
simple. It's
enjoy
supposed to be
yourself.
fun.
Keep it
Right.
simple and enjoy yourself. If it isn't fun, you are not doing it right.
Thank you, Rima. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we hop off here?
No, thank you.
Yeah,
And
thank you so
certainly,
much.
if people have problems, just get on the website, make an appointment. We do like puzzles too, and we can sort them out. And if you want to do this, it's a great thing to do. And plant some tomatoes. We're getting into the season next month. Tomatoes, everybody. everybody should at least have one cherry tomato plant growing on their porch. My theory.
Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us
you.
for this, Rima. And I'm hoping we can connect again soon about lettuce grow. If you're interested again in either the community garden or community garden consultation initiative or the lettuce grow program, hop over to our website, growing-gardens.org. Poke around. You can learn so much about the initiatives that we're working on, the projects, and the programs that we have at Growing Gardens. And you can always reach out to us too. Thanks again, Rima. It was great
Thank
chatting
you.
with you, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you for tuning in to the Radical Root podcast, hosted by the 501c3 nonprofit Growing Gardens. To learn more about our work or to donate to keep our programs and services thriving, please visit us at growing-gardens.org. While you're there, don't forget to download your free copy of the Radical Gardening Resource Guide, your step-by-step action path to a greener future for us all.